nothing wrong with 2 opportunities to stretch in about 5 minutes, right? That's very kind of you. I'm humbled and honored, and it's outstanding to be here with you this evening. I want to thank Jane for that introduction and for that oh so important clarification about my middle initial. I appreciate it very much. And just allow me a moment to thank the organizers and the executive committee and my friend Tom Ashford, my friend Wade Drinkard for providing the opportunity and the invitation for me to join you here this evening at what is clearly and without much argument one of the very best PETS training sessions that we have here in the United States. It's an opportunity for our lives for just a few moments to intersect, and I'm hopeful tonight that our lives will intersect in a very meaningful way as we think about all the beautiful service that our organization provides through Rotary International. As Jane mentioned, this would be my second trip to Nashville, to MidSouth PETS. I was here for a fleeting moment last year to help the DGEs at that time, Jack McAllister and Ed Calmy in the 2 Kentucky districts, with the service project that she mentioned, and I'm just absolutely thrilled at the success that they saw, not only in the numbers of pairs of shoes. I mean, yeah, as a bean counter, as a CPA, you do try to keep track of numbers, and maybe sometimes that's the only way the bean counters can tell a story, but more importantly, you know, one of the benefits of that project is that it brings Rotary clubs together in a very, very tangible way, and I'm excited that those 2 districts had that opportunity this last year. I've had a chance to review your program. It's a tremendous program, and I'm certainly pleased to be here to support the 6 DGEs, the JKL team, Jane and John and Jerry and Kim and Linda. I tried to do that kind of like Tom did today at lunch. So the JKL team, they're here to motivate you and inspire you this weekend, and I know that they're off to a good start, and it's my privilege to be here to try to help them along the way. Also, certainly I want to acknowledge that it's a privilege to be among the keynote speakers at an event like this. You have a tremendous lineup of speakers, save for tonight, and it will motivate and inspire you, and I hope set you on a course to be even stronger Rotarians through your opportunities of leadership. I hope that you get an extra boost from this weekend, and I want to acknowledge that I get pretty excited about Rotary most every time I go, but I do have an extra boost tonight as well. I want to acknowledge the fact that you had a chance, many of you, to meet our daughter, Kara, who was one of those interviewed by Michelangelo at lunch. And I thought I was just very proud of her demeanor and her approach and her poise and her charisma. She's here along with my wife, Jill. I'd like the 2 of them to stand tonight if they would. Certainly it gives me an extra boost, and that's what this weekend is all about. We also have a son. Our son Trent is currently in the dugout at the University of Evansville. He's a freshman at Indiana State University in Terre Haute, and they're playing the University of Evansville in a 3-game series this weekend. He's coming out of the bullpen. He's a left-handed pitcher as a freshman, and the last score we got, I think they were down 5-2. So we need a little extra boost for the Sycamores. I know that there's a lot of allegiances of colleges out there. I'm wise to all that. I saw Beth with her orange and all that, and so I know that Mercer beat Duke. Somebody mentioned that earlier as well, and so and everybody's happy about that, I can tell. Boo. Okay. All right. So that's how you embrace yourself and engage yourself with a Rotary audience right there during March Madness. Well, let's spend a few moments together, and this weekend is all about vision for you. I have to acknowledge to you that about 4 weeks ago, and maybe only as a CPA could describe it, I think I outlived the useful life of contact lenses. And so I've embraced a new set of glasses, and it gives me even clearer and stronger vision with each of you tonight. And I think it reminds us of the vision that each of you and each of us need as leaders, which reminds me of an Arnold Palmer golf story, one in which Palmer was invited to join a convention of blind golfers. Palmer asks the blind golfers how they're able to know what direction to hit the ball. And one of the blind golfers explained the key, that the caddy went out ahead of her with a little bell, which the caddy would ring as he stood near the hole. So the blind golfer would then hit the ball toward the sound of the bell. Arnold Palmer asked how well this worked, and the golfer said that it worked so well, she was willing to take on Arnold Palmer in a round of golf, and just to make it interesting, she was willing to bet Palmer $10,000 she could beat him. All the money, of course, going to the Rotary Foundation, I'm sure. Well, Arnold Palmer could not believe this. He resisted, but the lady insisted. So the deal was struck. Palmer said okay, and he asked her a question. What time shall we tee off? And the lady said, how about 10:30 tonight? So this is a reminder about vision, and no matter the obstacles, no matter the direction, we have to think about, don't we, what it takes for us to move our Rotary clubs forward, to get where we want to be, to move in the direction that we want to go, to reach the destination of your Rotary goals. Now, while you will, I'm confident, effectively be moving your clubs forward next year through your board and your club members in your local community. In fact, for just a moment, if you would, kind of picture in your mind the place where your club has its board meetings. Because while you're doing that next year, I have the privilege of serving on your board of directors of our organization. Most of our meetings are in Evanston, and when we're sitting around the table conducting the business corporately and globally of Rotary International, just like you're doing in those boardrooms in your local communities, let's just paint a quick picture of who's sitting around the table. It would be the president next year, who you'll meet tomorrow night, from Taiwan, and our president-elect from Sri Lanka, and you move around the table to our friend from Denmark and from Italy and Germany and Turkey, a lady from Argentina, a gentleman from the Philippines and England, and two from Japan, one from India, one from Korea, and 6 of us from the United States of America, one from Massachusetts, from Georgia, from Colorado, from California, from Wisconsin, and an old Rotary Foundation ambassadorial scholar from Missouri. And so we have to acknowledge our collective place in leadership. You and I are connected. This is our moment in time. I'm certainly humbled and privileged, as was noted at lunch, to be serving as one of the 17 directors on the board of directors of our organization, serving a 2-year term. I certainly feel the excitement of that opportunity. And I also feel the challenge of helping to lead Rotary into its future as we implement Rotary International Strategic Plan in each one of your clubs, as we help Rotary clubs be bigger, better, and bolder, as we shape the revitalization of Rotary's brand, engage the next generation to embrace Rotary membership, to get your clubs certified, to execute the new grants model of our Rotary Foundation, moving toward the 100th anniversary of the Rotary Foundation in 2017, focusing and increasing our humanitarian service through global grants for the world and district grants for your local community. And finally, to leverage our ability to succeed in the eradication of polio within the next 4 years by 2018, and take the lessons we've learned to create more partnerships, to be more responsive to the challenges that confront humanity. Now, one of the things I was asked to briefly touch on tonight is one of the ways that we are connected, you and I, and all of us throughout the Rotary world, and that's the work that we do every 3 years in charting the future of our organization together through our Council on Legislation. The Council on Legislation is a meeting that's held every 3 years. Last year, about this time, it was held in Chicago, and representatives from all 532 districts around the world come together to chart the course of the next future years of Rotary. Last year at the Council, I just want to briefly summarize 3 or 4 or 5 things that the Council showed as kind of the winds of change within our organization, that part of the wind underneath your sails as you continue to execute the changes and energy needed to strengthen your Rotary clubs locally. Primarily, the Council adopted an increase of $1 per year in our dues. Always a real popular topic, and the one the CPA puts out there right at the start, right? And so that was done because the Board of Directors has looked at a 5-year financial forecast for our organization, and we're attempting to keep pace with inflation while without necessitating any cutbacks in services. Because as you know, your dues are the primary source of funding for Rotary's operations. During that week last year, and let me acknowledge that the chairman, the leader of that worldwide meeting last year was your own John Germ, and John did a tremendous job in chairing that. And John, we thank you and congratulate you. John capably led that group of 532 very passionate Rotarians from around the world through about 170 enactments and resolutions, and those are things that are generated by clubs and districts, and of course by the RI board. Just a couple of things to note. In addition to the dues increase, there were resolutions passed to allow districts to have more than 2 e-clubs. Previously there had been a limit on the number of e-clubs that a district can have. These e-clubs, of course, meet electronically and may be more appealing or particularly appealing to those young professionals who may not be able as much to meet in person. In addition, another new exciting piece was adopting and approving satellite clubs whose members meet at a different time and location from like a parent club, but are still considered members of that parent club, hopefully intending for it to be easier for members to develop a core for a new club, so a way to leverage from one club to another. There's an increase in the number of clubs that can take part in pilot projects where we try to tackle certain areas and try to pilot and work on change. And we also approved a name change. One of the things that we're all really good at in Rotary is wordsmithing. And we approved the change in name of Rotary's 5th Avenue of Service. All of you are aware we have club service, vocational service, community service, and international service. Had also new generation service. That last year was changed back to youth service. And what a debate that was around the world about what promotes and measures our efforts with new generations and youth better, new generation service or youth service. A really, really solid use of our time, right? But obviously meaningful to our engagement of these next generations. So the Council is a reminder that Rotarians like you and I are the people who drive the organization. It's important that representatives from the clubs in a grassroots fashion direct the policies and rules that govern Rotary International. And certainly my leadership opportunity here on the board takes me into the realm of corporate governance and oversight and financial responsibility. Now I've already acknowledged John's very significant role, John Germ, last year, but I found it interesting today, and I finally figured out some 11 months later why I took the particular note that I took early in last year's Council on Legislation. Like anything, you want to try to practice before you actually move forward. So John took the 532 assembled, about a room filled with people about like this, and he said, well, let's practice one of these enactments, one of these legislative enactments. And so they put up a practice enactment and said, should Rotary clubs sing? Should Rotary clubs sing? Now, what do you think the vote was? How many think that it was voted down? Should Rotary Club sing? How many think it was voted for? Okay, the ayes have it. But the count was 244 to 222. So are the winds of change a-blowing? I don't know. But that was, again, of course, just a practice. But I want to thank you for mentioning that today during the presentation and giving me finally an opportunity to use some other meaningless, trivial tidbit of information concerning the Council on Legislation. Friends, you too should be feeling the excitement of your leadership opportunity. Personally, I hope you will support the Rotary Foundation with a personal contribution if you've never done that before. I hope you'll support and encourage the members of your club board of directors in your year of service to align your club's goals with those of Rotary International. And mostly, I hope that each of you will offer to your club next year servant leadership. Because I'm sure you also feel the challenge of helping lead your Rotary Club into its future next year. And let me encourage you in some of these following ways. With membership, just set a goal. Set a goal, decide right now how many members your Rotary Club is going to have on June 30th of 2015, and then just go make it happen. With the foundation, learn all you can learn about this new grants model. And lead your club to a higher level of giving, of donations to our annual giving program, at least $100 per member. That's always been our target in recent years. With communication, let's talk about this for just a second. I hope you'll improve your club's newsletter, your website. I hope you'll post your projects on Rotary Showcase. Maybe that's something you'll learn a little more about this weekend. And I was thrilled to see that promotional video put together by one of your 6 districts that was shown here at the beginning of this session. And I was absolutely thrilled with that. Commend those efforts. There were 6 words that were part of, near the end of that video. Does anybody remember those 6 words? Join leaders, exchange ideas, take action. Would you say that with me? Join leaders, exchange ideas, take action. We're constantly looking for ways to quickly describe the Rotary experience. And those 6 words currently are one of our primary thought processes on how to talk to our members and to our potential members. What is Rotary? Come join leaders, exchange ideas, and take action. Finally, let me encourage you to think about how you can use your own particular vocational skills that you bring to Rotary in your year as club president next year for the betterment of your Rotary Club. There's something about those bean counters that can add something to those Rotary Clubs, right? And each of you bring that gift to your Rotary Club, and you have an opportunity next year to share that gift with the members of your Rotary Club, and I encourage that. Leaders, maybe in short, what I'm suggesting to you very quickly as a club president next year is I hope you believe you're in the business of creating more Rotary moments for more of your members. For more of your Rotary members. Will you do that? I've been blessed with a good number of Rotary moments. What about you? You can think of them now, can't you? Many of you are shaking your head. Something you define as a Rotary moment. Many of our Rotary moments, in my view, and in my personal experience, are created by the work of our Rotary Foundation. In many of the speeches that I have made on behalf of Rotary over the years, just ask my wife and my daughter, I often speak of the incredible value of 20 minutes with a Rotarian. Literally, how much difference spending 20 minutes with a Rotarian can make in a person's life. Because you see, it was a Rotarian just like you in North Missouri who provided the push to have me apply for a Rotary Foundation ambassadorial scholarship back in 1980, which was a time I promise you I had more hair. And that was a scholarship I was blessed to obtain. I spent 9 months as a graduate student at the University of Newcastle, New South Wales, Australia, hopping with the kangaroo in the trees for the koala, not the koala bear, the koala, right? And it was a life-changing experience for me. Provided for one of the projects, one of the programs of our Rotary Foundation. It is the reason that I stand before you tonight. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to each and every Rotarian that makes an annual donation to our annual programs fund or an endowment to our endowment fund, a bequest. Because it's people like me that gain a world of benefit who can feel and experience the impact of the Rotary Foundation one project at a time. And that experience as a postgraduate student of immediate engagement in Rotary, let me remind you of that again, of immediate engagement in Rotary, helped create a passion that I've tried to live out for the last 30 years, because we know with complete certainty that our business, the service above self business, will never run out of customers who are in need. Part of the reason that you and I give and keep giving our time and our talents and our treasures is that we sometimes notice the opportunity it gives those we serve to give back in return. An interesting spin on this was revealed to me in one of those email stories that goes around. I'd like to share it with you tonight. The subject line was kindness and opportunity. This is a true example of what human kindness is all about. Someone who teaches at a middle school in Safety Harbor, Florida, forwarded the following letter. The letter was sent to the principal's office after the school had sponsored a luncheon for the elderly. An elderly lady received a new radio at the luncheon as a door prize and was writing to say thank you. Dear Safety Harbor Middle School, God bless you. Bless you, actually. God bless you, actually. God bless you for the beautiful radio I won at your recent Senior Citizens Luncheon. I'm 84 years old and live at the Safety Harbor Assisted Home for the Aged. All of my family has passed away. I am all alone now, and it's nice to know that someone is thinking of me. God bless you for your kindness to an old forgotten lady. My roommate is 95 and always had her own radio. But before I received one, she would never let me listen to hers, even when she was napping. The other day, her radio fell off the nightstand and broke into a lot of pieces. It was awful, and she was in tears. She asked if she could listen to mine, and I told her to shove it. Thank you for that opportunity. Sincerely, Edna Walters. I'm going to meet Edna Walters someday. I really hope. She's an inspiration. Because you see, right? You just never know the opportunity that your giving gives to someone else, do you? So I've been speaking to you briefly about Rotary moments and making more of them for more Rotarians, acknowledging that I've had a few, blessed to have had some, and knowing that you've had some too. And so I thought, because I am so inspired by Edna Walters, that I would try to model one of those for you tonight, and I've decided to write you a letter. Dear Rotary leaders at MidSouth Pets, one day in August, out of 9,600 pairs of shoes that were loaded on the trailer by District 6040 Missouri Rotarians at the Holiday Inn in St. Joseph, Missouri, my friend Scott pulled out one particular pair of boots. Light brown they were. He said that I should take this pair of boots with me on our upcoming trip to St. Petersburg, Russia, when we would be delivering shoes to the orphans in that country. He said that I should find the child for which that pair of boots was the perfect fit. So I did. 4 months later, in November, about 5 days into our Russia trip, a young boy, 11 years old, named Victor, was my child at orphanage number 32. The Russians were very, very creative with the names of their orphanages. After a couple of hours with Victor, I came to realize that he might indeed be the child for which this pair of boots would be the perfect fit. So I took a piece of paper off the bulletin board and through an interpreter asked if Victor could take off the dilapidated shoe that he was wearing, which he did, and I traced his footprint on that piece of paper. And then I ran out into the cold and the snow to our bus to get the pair of boots out of my backpack. I placed the pair of boots up against the traced footprint, and he was. Victor, in St. Petersburg, Russia, got a new pair of shoes. When he put them on, he hugged me, and I hugged him. Because of many experiences like this in Russia, I decided that I must go on another shoe delivery trip. So I did. 14 months later, in January, about 3 days into our Guatemala trip, can I suggest to you that Guatemala in January is slightly more favorable than Russia in November? A young boy, 8 years old, was my child at the Zacapa orphanage. It was hot. It was dusty and dirty. So we decided that before we placed the shoes on the children's feet, that we would wash and clean their feet and tickle their feet. We used the green surgical gloves to do so, and of course threw the green gloves away when we were through. All the while I was with this young boy, I tried through our interpreter to learn his name. You see, it added meaning to the experience to know the name of the child with whom you were engaged. 5 minutes, 10 minutes went by. This young boy would never say his name. Our interpreter finally told me that perhaps he didn't know his name. Oh well, he loves his new shoes. When he put them on, he hugged me, and I hugged him. About an hour later, as we were preparing to leave the Zacapa orphanage, I walked into a classroom at this orphanage where this young boy now was. And he was now wearing a name tag. His name was Victor. 2 years, 2 trips, 2 countries, 2 Victors. As we left the Zacapa orphanage that day, I turned one last time to wave to the orphans. Walking toward me, holding something in his hand, was Victor. He handed me this green surgical glove from the trash. To this day, I believe it was a gift from His soul to me, a motivated act in return for the shoes and clothes and time and care and love we had brought to Him. To this day, clearly, don't you know, this is one of the greatest gifts I've ever received. I hugged Him, and He hugged me. Sincerely, Larry Lunsford. Because you see, you just never know the opportunity that your giving gives to others, do you? So it is with Rotary. And so it is with your work as visionary leaders here in these 6 districts in Alabama, Tennessee, and Kentucky, and in the Rotary clubs of the other parts of the coast to coast that are here this weekend. A cycle where givers become receivers and receivers become givers. It is a cycle without end, and a cycle that needs each and every one of us and each and every one of you. So the time for our lives to intersect is drawing to a close, and so I want to take another risk as a bean counter and try to paint a little more imagery with you for just a second. So I want you to think about, as I close with a children's book that I really like, I want you to imagine your own diverse Rotary club that you're going to be leading next year. Think about your club. I want you to remember that blue is one of the colors of Rotary and our Rotary Foundation. And I want you to imagine that you're on a little shopping trip with me for just a moment. With that background, I'd like to share with you a children's book called The Crayon Box That Talked, which I think is beautiful imagery for incoming leaders in Rotary International. The Crayon Box That Talked by Shane DeRolf. While walking in a toy store the day before today, I overheard a crayon box with many things to say. "I don't like red," said yellow, and green said, "Nor do I. And no one here likes orange, but no one knows just why." And please understand, I know what a risk that was in the state of Tennessee, okay? I mean, as leaders, you got to know what you're walking into, right? But you got to be strong. "We are a box of crayons that doesn't get along," said Blue to all the others. "Something here is wrong." Well, I bought that box of crayons and took it home with me and laid out all the colors so the crayons could all see. They watched me as I colored with red and blue and green and black and white and orange and every color in between, particularly orange, right? They watched as green became the grass and blue became the sky. The yellow sun was shining bright on white clouds drifting by. Colors changing as they touched, becoming something new. They watched me as I colored. They watched till I was through. And when I finally finished, I began to walk away. And as I did, the crayon box had something more to say. "I do like red," said yellow, and green said, "So do I." And blue, "You were terrific," so high up in the sky. We are a box of crayons, each one of us unique. But when we get together, the picture is complete. I take great comfort tonight that each of you know oh so well the cycle where givers become receivers and receivers become givers. This will serve Rotary well as you move into one of the greatest years of your life, serving not just as any club president, but a Rotary club president. Make your moment in time count. Show significant individual leadership. Create Rotary moments. Display the vision that says you will never underestimate the capacity of the Rotarians in your Rotary Club. Let's do that again. Display the vision that says you will never underestimate the capacity of the Rotarians in your Rotary Club. Open up and add to the crayon box that is your Rotary Club, and bring it together next year under your leadership with a connecting spirit like never before. It was mentioned to you today at lunch, the significance of the number 101, right? There's 101 days left until July 1st. Leaders, the countdown is on. Thank you for your service. Enjoy this leadership training time in Nashville, and keep up the great work of Rotary, because I trust you have noted by now that you just never know the opportunity that your giving gives to others. Thank you.